Good morning, and welcome to the deep dive for CNCF CI version 3. I'm Watson. We've got Denver right here in the front. And thank you for coming out. We're going to have 3 portions to our agenda today. We're going to do a introduction to the CNCF team really quickly. We're going to go over the goals. We're going to go over the key features. We're going to do a dashboard walkthrough. And then we're going to get into the deep dive, which is going to go over the how to add a project to CNCF CI. We're going to go over our challenges, our benefits. Going to do a quick code review and show you how to stay connected with us. And then a Q&A. Oh, here we go. All right, so first a little bit about us. We're the Vulk Cooperative, a software cooperative based in Austin, Texas. We started in 2013. If you want to meet us in person and you're in Austin, we have various software or various meetups. We have the software cooperative meetup, and then we also have an open source Axes meetup if you want to throw some Axes with us. You can also connect with us on Twitter with at Vulk Coop and at Open Source Axes. This thing. All right. Here's the CNCF team. We have Taylor, Lucina, myself. We've got Ashley, Josh, Will, and Robert. We have some technical difficulties here. Okay, there we go. So we have CNCF CI. The project consists of the CI testing system, the status repository, and then the dashboard. The CI testing system validates the build and deployment phase for the CNCF projects for any commit on stable or head, and for different architectures such as x86 and ARM, and we do that in a neutral environment on bare metal packet, happens to be the bare metal provider. The CI testing system can reuse the hosted project's artifacts, and then also the CI testing system can generate artifacts. That's more of a legacy service that we provide. And the status repository basically gathers the test results, and the dashboard shows those results. So the goals for the CNCF CI system complement the CNCF landscape, also the trail map, and we want to promote CNCF hosted projects and invite more projects, help them to come on board to the CNCF. We want to demonstrate cloud native technologies and on multiple test environments. And then we want to support and contribute to a scalable and sustainable project ecosystem. And we get feedback from the different projects and cloud native end users. And overall, we want to provide a third-party, unbiased validation of build, deploy, and E2E tests for CNCF graduated and incubated projects. Here's an overview of the graduated and incubating projects. There's 8 graduated and 15 incubating. We also host a Linux project, ONAP project for the Linux Foundation. It's the service orchestrator piece of the ONAP. So there's about 35 projects within ONAP. This is one piece. So key features of CNCF CI. We've got the project-centric features where we highlight and we validate CNCF-hosted, graduated, and incubated projects. So our main goal is to demonstrate stable and head releases for the graduated and incubated projects. We want to reuse the build containers for version 3 of CNCF CI. We want to reuse the build containers for the projects that are provided by their CI system, and we want to also reuse the upstream Helm charts that the projects provide. and their end-to-end tests. All right. The version 3, we also want to streamline the way that we engage with the projects and the project maintainers. So maintainers now can update their own project and release details via a GitHub pull request. They also can provide the Helm charts and smoke tests to us for the deploy phase, and then we will use their end-to-end tests as well. So the CI testing system is going to integrate with the external CI systems of the projects and retrieve their build status and their container artifacts and display and use those. So CNCF CI is an agnostic testing system. We validate projects in a configurable and neutral test environment. The configuration and you'll see when we display the dashboard, but we can configure Kubernetes with head and stable, and our test environment is going to allow you to go between those two things. And then also you can configure the architecture, so that will be x86 or ARM. And we deploy in bare metal. So that's where we call it neutral. So now we're going to do a quick dashboard walkthrough. Here's what the dashboard looks like. And we're going to dive into that a little bit more. The test environment at the top of the dashboard is going to be where we allow you to select Kubernetes header stable. And then we also show containerd version there. And then you have the architecture, which is x86 or ARM. And then we display the bare metal provider, which is Packet. Under the test environment, there's a list of projects. So now we're going to go into the deep dive. How to add a project. So as a project maintainer, a quick show of hands, are there any contributors here to any of the CNCF-hosted projects? Okay. As a project maintainer, the first thing that you're going to do is go to Cross-Cloud CI and go to your project name - configuration. And within that repo, you're going to go ahead and fork it. And then go ahead and take a look at CNCF CI -YAML. And that's where you're going to be doing most of your configuration, or really all of your configuration. Inside of CNCF YAML, you're going to be able to modify these different elements here. So you have the local URL, that's going to be your URL, and then the display name there on the dashboard, also the subtitle, and the stable ref, and the head ref. You also are managing the project URL, which is your source control URL. And then after you do all that in CNCF CI YAML, you'll go ahead and submit the pull request to us, and we'll put it into production. One of the new things for version 3 is the CI system configuration. We have a new element where there's a list of your CI systems. Some projects have more than one CI system. The elements here are a CI system, which would be something like Travis, and that's one of the systems that we support now. We're working on GitHub Actions and then also Circle CI. The system type is going to be, that's what the Travis CI system type is. The project URL is going to be most likely a GitHub URL for your project. And then the project name really is the identifier within your CI system. Most likely it's the organization / project name. And architecture is the list of architectures that you support in your CI system, which would be x86, maybe ARM. Let's go through all these. So challenges that we ran into. This is in my opinion, one of the biggest challenges that we ran into is the cross-pipeline problem within CNCF CI. The cross-pipeline problem is when you have one organization with one pipeline and their CI/CD tool that's used by another organization with a separate pipeline, and a totally separate CI/CD tool. So a quick show of hands, do you guys, who in here has worked with even within one organization, multiple CI tools and different pipelines? And so this is something that we end up having to deal with. And I'd like to hear a little bit about this problem from some of you probably right now, if you have Denver. Yep.
Yeah, Fatih Dermanci, working for Ericsson, based in Stockholm, Sweden, and involved in CI/CD domain for a few years. Internally in our organization, we have challenges exactly like this. We use different tools and technologies like Jenkins, Spinnaker, and so on. And since we are a very large organization, about 100,000 people, it is very difficult to construct and run complex end-to-end CI/CD pipelines because they use different tools, and all these tools have different ways of doing stuff, and there is no straightforward way to, again, create pipelines using these tools. And often we have to create our own scripts, glue solutions to overcome these issues. And on a daily basis, our pipelines are broken because something changes in Jenkins that breaks our regular expressions, perhaps, and breaks our pipelines. In addition to what we are doing in our company, I'm also involved in Linux Foundation networking projects, and it's very similar to what CNCF cross-cloud CI is going through. We have LF networking cross-community CI there, and we are trying to integrate different open source communities, projects to bring up new telecom networks like NFVI or CNF type work. And unfortunately, we haven't had too much progress there because, again, the same problem exists in open source as well. Because OpenStack uses a different CI tool, CNCF uses another. If you look at Linux Foundation networking projects, they use Jenkins, and it is nearly impossible to make these things talk to each other. So to tackle this problem, actually, we started talking under Continuous Delivery Foundation. I don't know if you heard that. It's a new foundation, 6 months old, to actually deal with challenges such as this. And we proposed a new special interest group to work on these things called Special Interest Group Interoperability, and Jenkins, Tecton, Spinnaker folks joined to Special Interest Group. So if you have this type of challenges, if you want to make your voice heard, come and talk about the problems, the solutions you may have, share these with the other projects, and work on these things together. Just join to this effort, and I hope CNCF Cross-Cloud CI team can also take part in this, because if we are more there, we will make more noise and hopefully work on this together in an open, collaborative way. So, thanks for bringing up the problem.
Yeah. Does anyone else have any pain that they want to express? Wait. Let's get the SIG name is interoperability, is what you said? Okay. All right. Anyone else have any stories that they want to say for cross? Because this is what our issue that we have all the time. Here we go.
Hey. So I'm a software consultant. I end up working at a lot of different companies, and we've run into a lot of clients who've had this situation. We've experimented with a few different options for dealing with this. One is using, for example, a higher level orchestrator to orchestrate pipeline triggers across several different pipeline technologies. A popular tool for that is Atomist. I don't know if you guys have heard of that. But the easier, more consistent way that I've found to deal with this situation is to develop the business logic of my pipelines in a higher level, or a language like a Node or Golang, and then compile that to a CLI that can be executable on all the different pipeline technologies, so that can be migrated more easily.
Great. So. Anyone else? All right. So we're going to talk a little bit about trying to make CLIs that help you do cross pipeline here in a bit. So some of the benefits of version 3, we're going to allow project maintainers to have more control over the visibility of their projects, so for their branding, their logos, subtitles, names, and all that stuff, and then also control their release. So with the stable version and the head branch, one of the issues that a project maintainer may run into is that their stable branch may be actually showing that it's failed. They may not like that, so they may want to have control over that and say, oh, let's go ahead and move the stable branch to a previous version and show that it's passing, so that their customers or whoever is interested in their project can see that they're passing. So up until now, we've been managing that, and I think project maintainers are better suited for that type of thing. The version 3, our cross-pipeline architecture, we took a stab at trying to solve some of the cross-pipeline problems. We have a standard way to consume the build status, artifacts, and test status. We abstract away changes that occur in the versions of the CI/CD tool. So now we're going to do a little bit of a code review. So one of the first things as a project maintainer, if you come in and after you've done the previous steps, you've modified CNCF CI, YAML, and all that stuff, you probably want to take a look. We use as our CI tool, CI/CD tool, we use GitLab. You're going to want to go ahead and take a look in your project configuration repo. You're going to want to look at your GitLab CI YAML file. And everything in there is generic, but when you're going to want to do, if you want to do any customizations, that's kind of what you're going to be responsible for if you want to do that. They're going to probably happen in this file. What we have in there is a curl command to the external CI, what we call the external CI proxy tool. And this CI proxy tool, it's just going to be a curl command that we have in there. And what it does is it goes ahead and it gets the build status from your CI tool. Right? So in the future, we have build status right now, but in the future, as in maybe before the end of the year, we're going to have the ability to get the artifacts from your CI tool. Hopefully you're exposing artifacts, and then also the test statuses. So actually, that's another question. As far as any of the project maintainers or contributors, who all, show of hands, who all exposes artifacts for stable and head? Artifacts being like containers. It's for download after they do their builds. Kind of. For stable? Yeah. So you said some artifacts for stable, and then what we've run into is for head, sometimes we don't see. I mean, Denver, do you know, as far as what's the story as far as the stable and head external artifacts, just from what you've seen?
I mean, it's really helpful when they're there for a head, but it seems like it's, for most of the projects externally, it's 50-50. They'll build, but it seems like a common strategy when you're building for a head or a master release to dispose of the artifacts. But the problem with that approach is it makes it really difficult to go back in time and go, what happened back there? Did it fail?
Yeah. Yeah, so some history, we used to grab your build. We used to do the builds for the projects. We used to build Envoy, we used to build Prometheus. We're still actually building those. We have, coming down from on high, we can't build your projects anymore. We need to reuse your artifacts. So you need to expose your head and stable artifacts. And we're trying to make it as easy as possible, and we're going to work with you. We're going to work with you in order to try to make that as easy as possible for you. And as far as the different CI/CD tools, there's different ways to do that. I think we got to.
I'm wondering if SIG interoperability is looking at this too. So we're talking about the publishing the build artifacts. So I know one of our first integrations, or it was the first integration, was with ONAP. So you had Jenkins was the CI system used, and we were able to actually get the artifact that was created during the build, which is different from saying you have a build happening and it's running all your tests, and then someone else happens to publish an artifact. That's not going to make sure that those are joined so that what was tested and validated is what you're downloading. With ONAP, they actually had that. That was like one of the first, the ones that we did. And that was Jenkins for the CI, and then they used Nexus for the image repository. It doesn't really matter where it is. The main point was publishing on every stable release. You did a CI build for it and then published it. And then their master, or what was essentially nightly builds of whatever was on master or head, that was happening. So we could actually match the build that was shown with the artifact or the image that we download from there. So that's ideally what we want, and I'm wondering if that's like on the agenda for accessing, and if anyone else has been thinking about that. And ideally we could look at like specification around that, because the regexes and stuff that was mentioned, that's problematic. In fact, that's some of the errors right now that we have with ONAP that we got to update. The Jenkins changed, but something to associate CI builds with artifacts being published.
Yeah, actually we proposed the SIG yesterday, so it's pretty young. And if you go and look at the pull request we submitted to Continuous Delivery Foundation GitHub repo, this is one of the problems we highlighted, passing metadata and artifacts across different pipelines. Because like you can get artifacts, but it can't be a random one. You have to pick and choose what you want to get, and the pipelines should provide all the metadata about all the artifacts. And as you said, there is no even de facto standard how to do this. And in this picture, not just Jenkins is involved, artifact repositories are involved, test resulted systems is involved, and all these things could be put together and present to whoever might be interested in those artifacts. So yes, this is one of the areas we want to work on. And again, it's in the proposal, but since we haven't started yet, it's not approved yet, we will present it for approval. Just come and join and we talk about these things. And there are other ideas around interoperability, because when you talk to people, some people bring up questions like what you asked, passing metadata and artifacts. Some others are more interested in common pipeline languages, for example. That's another interoperability issue. If we had a pipeline language or templating that could help end users to change their tooling without breaking their pipelines, just porting the pipeline on another tool. So there could be different areas we can focus under this SIG, and people interested in different parts can take part in those things, have conversations, drive the topic, write the specifications, release white papers, whatever, to raise the awareness. So, yeah, long answer, sorry.
All right, so this is optional for the project maintainers. Everything that we talked about up until now is all kind of mandatory. Here, this is optional. So what we provide for collaboration is the way, and what we would like is for people to help us in building CI proxy plugins. They said before, we've got Travis working, and we're working on GitHub Actions and Circle CI. What we'd like is for more people, and maybe specialized custom plugins are also an option here. For people to submit pull requests and even maintain their own plugin. So what is a CI proxy plugin? It's a simple CLI tool, like what we were talking about earlier, consuming status information from a project CI/CD pipeline. So we try to make it as simple as possible, the API. The API is going to be -P for the project, which is going to be the identifier in that CI/CD tool, and then -C for the commit reference, and -T for tag name. And as of right now, the response is going to be tab delimited, and we have the build status, so success, failure, running, and the build URL. And so for the dashboard, that's what's going to get consumed as far as a plugin. So why even have a CI proxy in the first place? We want to have a one-stop shop for the build status and the artifact links and possibly the integration test results. And so if you decide to make a CI plugin, you'll also need to make a pull request to make us aware that there's a new plugin available. And the way to do that is to modify the CI plugin YAML, which is in the EXCI Proxy repo. And so you have 4 elements, YAML elements, that you'll need to modify and add. So there's going to be the name of your CI plugin. You've got the interface, which is most likely a CLI style. You've got the repo, which is your repo for your plugin that you made. And then the ref, as far as we're going to expect you to have certain releases or proper releases for your plugin and everything like that. So how to get connected with us. You can see the contributing guide. As a project maintainer, that's the first thing that you're going to want to do. Cross-cloud CI and then contributing markdown. Then you've got creating issues and PRs at Cross-Cloud CI. CI dashboard is where you want to do that. Subscribe to the CNCF CI plugin, public mailing list at CNCF CI public at list CNCF.io. And we also have the Slack channel, which is CNCF-CI on the CNCF Slack. And we also have a monthly CNCF CI working group, which is at the CNCF WG-CI URL for more information there. It's 4th Tuesday of every month, and the next meeting is January 28th. And also to connect with the team, you've got at CrossCloud CI, at CNCF CI, at Vulk Coop, of course, the Slack channel that we said, CNCF CI, and then CNCF CI at Vulk Coop for an email. And now let's move on to questions, Q&A. Does anybody have stories that they want to share?
Hey, probably this is a couple of questions are going to be repeat. I had a good chat with Denver yesterday. By the way, I'm Uma. We are the maintainers of a sandbox project called OpenEBS. We have a very similar, a kind of a clone of what is CNCF Cross-Cloud CI long back, but I have a couple of questions. The E2E tests that you have, maybe there are only few, how do we get the visibility of the E2E tests from the dashboard? I can see the build, the success badges. That's the first. I have a couple of more. Maybe you can just...
Yeah, that's good.
All right, so right now with the V3, we actually went for a stage where we've kind of disabled E2E tests because we're migrating, but once we re-enable them, what we're wanting to do is work with upstream projects that already have tests in a way that's similar to this is have a configuration that's high level, be able to go, this is a CI system and these are our tests and these are how to execute them. And then that NA badge under the E2E test column will be populated.
Yeah, thank you. And the second question is on the backend platform. You said you are using Packet. If the E2E tests are going to be long and then which are going to require some obviously more resources than just the build, how is that going to happen? You have certain pool of Packet clusters or what if I want to run a little bit of a scale testing as part of my E2E, which requires about 10 to 12 nodes. How does it work?
All right, so that's something that's also coming when we populate the E2E field. We're going to add things like configuration for how big is your workload, what resources do you need. So then when the tests run, it will go through that configuration and go, okay, this is the amount of resource we need to provision a Kubernetes cluster of this size, and then execute the tests.
It's like an interview or something like that. Sorry. We are pretty excited about contributing or merging whatever we have in OpenEBS CI into CNCF.CI, but it is a sandbox project. I see the Kubernetes test environment is a little more stable. Obviously, you guys maintain more than what we could afford. So is it okay for a sandbox project to commit the PR? I knew the answer yesterday, but I just wanted to ask formally.
All right, well, Lucina, I think you're a good person to answer this.
That's a good question. The CNCF CI is listed as a maintained service for projects, and primarily those services are for graduated and incubating projects at this time. So we would have to maybe check and get back with you on that. Excellent. Very good. Thank you.
Does anyone else have any comments here? Yeah, over here. Oh, yeah, we're there.
Hi, my name's Alex. I'm an engineer from a company called Optimizely. I just have a kind of quick question for you. I actually didn't know too much about the CNCF CI project until I came here. Super exciting, really cool. My question is, at Optimizely, we have a lot of different projects that all have kind of their own special Snowflake CI, and in some cases their own special Snowflake CD. And we're kind of actively in the process of trying to unify some of that stuff and present some unified dashboards and this kind of stuff. So technology that feels very similar. So I guess the question is, what's your advice for an organization that's trying to kind of wrangle this stuff together and really kind of drive home consistency and sort of transparent view for everyone?
Well, definitely would recommend forking the project and trying to solve some of the problems with using CNCF CI. I'm interested in hearing, and maybe we can talk later because we've got 1 minute, but in hearing about your story as far as what you're doing right now with your pipelines, and probably we can try to direct the way that we're doing our development to try to help what it is that you guys are doing.
Yeah, it'd be awesome.
Yep. I think we're about done here. So thanks for showing up, and looking forward to working with you all.